What's up, y'all? Jared Sandler here with you, getting ready to chat about Joey Gallo. We're going to do two things. One, I'm going to tell you why Joey Gallo is having a really good year. Two, we're going to discuss what the future might hold for Joey Gallo and the Texas Rangers. Trade, extension, and why those are really the only two options from the Texas Rangers standpoint. So let's start with why Joey Gallo is having a really good year. And I understand this is subjective, but I'm going to try and present some objective information to show that while Joey Gallo strikes out, and while his batting average is not great, he is still a really, really good player. So first of all, let's address batting average and strikeouts. Joey's strikeout rate is actually the best of his career, as is his walk rate. But he's walking more, he's striking out less than ever before in his career. His batting average entering play today, and this is Tuesday, getting ready for the Rangers and the A's, is 224. That would not be the best batting average to end a season. That would be his 2019 half year in which he hit 253. But what I think is important to note is that 224 might not be as bad as you think it is when you consider that the league batting average is 239. It's only 15 points below the league batting average. So, yeah, is he below average in that department? He sure is, but it's not nearly as stark as it's been in past years. But let's consider some advanced stats quickly, and then I'll bring it back to the standard stats. Weighted runs created plus. To simplify, this is a statistic that evaluates a player's ability to create runs relative to league average, and it adjusts for various factors. So if your weighted runs created plus is a 100, that means your league average. 96, that means you're 4% below league average. 112, that means you're 12% better than league average as far as your production in terms of creating runs and helping your team create runs. Joey Gallo's got a 134 weighted runs created plus. That is 34% better than league average. That's among the best in Major League Baseball. And that tries to catch all from a player's offensive contribution. And just to give you some localized Rangers context, that's a figure that is slightly better than Adolis Garcia's figure entering today. WOBA, weighted on base average. Again, this is another statistic. It is an advanced statistic. It's one that front offices value highly. I don't care about these cool, funny acronyms that tell you, this number, that number, if a front office does not value it. Because if a front office does not value it in their evaluation of a player, then what the heck does it matter? I mean, I can come up with an XY, JQ _ B uppercase C, whatever that would be. And if a front office is like, man, that stat's great, that really does help us evaluate a player. Perfect. Good for me. If not, it's just a fun number, I guess. WOBA is a stat that front offices value. And Joey's WOBA is top 15 in Major League Baseball. The number, if you're looking for the actual number entering today, is 366. You can look at weighted on base average, but again, it tries to put value to the various offensive outcomes so that not everything is kind of equalized here, right? And then WAR. Everyone, by now has probably heard of WAR, wins above replacement. Joey's on pace to be a 5-win player. His WAR right now in Fangraphs is 2.5. He's on pace to be a 5-win player. And just for whatever it's worth, 5-win players are all-stars. 5-win players are big-time contributors. There are not many 5-win players year to year in Major League Baseball. But let's simplify it a little bit. On-base percentage. All right. On-base percentage is what? The frequency in which you get on base. Another way to look at it, it's the frequency in which you avoid committing one of the 3 precious outs that your team gets each half inning. Joey's on-base percentage is 385. That means 38.5% of the time this year, he is not committing an out, or he is not involved in a play in which an out is being committed. So a fielder's choice, while he does reach base, that does not benefit his on-base percentage. I get asked that a lot. I was told last week Joey's a rally killer, and I think that's a stigma attached to the fact that Joey strikes out, right? Joey is actually not a rally killer. As a matter of fact, Joey is less of a rally killer than anyone else on his team, because more than anyone else on his team, Joey steps into the batter's box and avoids committing an out. All right, a lot of that is walk driven, right? He leads the majors in walks, but whatever the case, Joey is not costing your team one of the 3 outs you get in a half inning more frequently, or is costing your team more infrequently than anyone else. So Joey is not a rally killer. Now, why does that matter in relation to batting average? Well, let's take Jose Iglesias for an example. I tweeted about Jose Iglesias the other day. Jose Iglesias was hitting 256. He was hitting more than 30 points better than Joey Gallo from a batting average standpoint. All right, that's pretty significant. All right, Jose Iglesias clearly has the better batting average and probably will end the season with the better batting average. However, Jose Iglesias' on base percentage was 283. Joey Gallo's at the time was 384. It's now up to 385. Joey Gallo's on base percentage was more than 100 points better than Jose Iglesias. So while Jose Iglesias might put a smile on your face just a little more frequently when it comes to getting base hits, he's putting a frown on your face 10% more often than Joey Gallo when it comes to committing outs. Joey Gallo avoids outs 10% more frequently than Jose Iglesias. That is a way, way more valuable measurement of an offensive player's contribution than simply batting average. Now, the other thing, the kicker here, where it totally just tilts the scales in favor of Joey, is that Joey hits for power, Jose Iglesias doesn't. So while Jose Iglesias might get more hits, the damage he does with those hits doesn't even come close to measuring or equaling Joey's damage, because Joey hits for extra base hit power, whereas Jose Iglesias doesn't. But the slug aside, Joey gets on base way more. And then the other thing too is this. Remember, its defense is a huge part of this. Joey is among the best defensive outfielders in Major League Baseball. He won a Gold Glove last year, and he very well could win another one again this year. Outs above average. That's another stat that front offices value. Joey's got the second best outs above average among Major League right fielders this year, and he's among the best, compared to other outfielders in a lot of different defensive metrics. Suffice to say, Joey is having a very good defensive year. And a player should not be evaluated based solely on the 4 to 5 plate appearances they give you a night. They spend 9 innings in the field unless they're a DH, and that's really valuable too. And Joey makes a definite impact defensively. So there's not a single measurement of value that tells me Joey is having anything less than a really good year. Offensively, he is not just above average, he's among the tops in significant categories in Major League Baseball or the American League. He is way above average in that regard. Plus, he's among the very best defensive outfielders in Major League Baseball. You put those two things together, yes, base running is a part of this, and Joey's a really good base runner. We know this. He's not going to steal 20 bags, but he is someone who is going to create more runs with what he does on the bases than the average player. You add those three things together, where do you see anything that suggests even just average season for Joey Gallo? The problem with having this conversation is that so often in sports, it's one extreme or the other. If you say someone's good, then it gets interpreted as, oh, he's the best ever. Or if you say someone's underachieving or not good, he's the worst ever. That's just not reality. That's not what this is. It's in the middle. I'm not saying Joey's the best ever. I don't even know that Joey is the best he's ever been or the best he can be. But Joey Gallo, compared to the rest of the league, in a year in which offensive numbers are down, is really good. Is having a really good year and is a really valuable player. So it just bothers me that people look at Joey and see the batting average and the strikeouts and say, he's not that good. Again, one last simple stat to put this in context. Joey Gallo's OPS this year is 830. You want to know what the Major League average OPS is this season, entering today, this Tuesday, June 29th? The Major League average is 714. That means Joey Gallo's OPS is 116 points higher than the league average. Again, that is significant. All right, so we've covered this. What is Joey's future? What is Joey's future with the Rangers? What is Joey's future, with the Rangers this year and beyond? Is he going to get traded? Is he not? So this is a very nuanced conversation. All right. So obviously there's going to be a crowd who they're never going to get behind Joey Gallo, right? They want the batting average, and it is what it is. I think what's really important in having this conversation about Joey's future and maybe where you stand on it, if you're not quite sure, is defining how you view Joey. All right. Do you view him as a franchise player, like the alpha in a franchise? Do you view him as, using basketball speak, since we've spoken a lot about Kristaps and the Mavs and just basketball roster construction, do you view Joey as a number 2 or a number 3, or how do you view Joey? What's his role? I'm going to tell you, I don't view Joey as your number 1 alpha franchise player. And I don't think Joey necessarily cares about that. I think Joey would say, that's cool with me, just based on the fact that Joey has said, hey, I'm comfortable hitting 4th or 5th. I don't need to be the guy that hits 2nd or 3rd, which those two spots are becoming maybe the more prolific, like I'm the alpha guy spots. Uh, I don't know if Joey is your second best player. Like if you look at a World Series team, I don't know if Joey is your second best player. Maybe he's your third, maybe he's your fourth. Uh, I ultimately think Joey in the lineup is best utilized hitting fifth, sixth, seventh. I think that's where if you put Joey in one of those spots, it's like, wow, that's a really good lineup. All right, could he hit fourth? Sure, absolutely. But I think if you're talking about a World Series caliber lineup, he's hitting fifth, sixth, seventh. That's great. You have him hitting there, plus giving you outstanding defense. Again, that's a really good player. All right, that's a really good player. But what's his future? He's a free agent after next year, not this year, but next year. So as you know, trading a guy with more than a year's worth of control tends to bring back much better value than if you were a rental, right? So, that's an important thing to consider when evaluating the Rangers' decision and why people view this year as an important year to make that decision, even though he's not a free agent until next year. So for a while, I've worked under the impression that a Joey Gallo extension is just going to be too expensive for the Rangers to really consider. And that's really dating back to 2019 when he was an all-star. And I was of the mindset that Joey probably would be making 25 to 28 million a year. All right, 5 years, 135. And I don't know if that would be worth it. All right. But my thoughts have shifted because I think his price tag can be more reasonable. And I'll get to that in a second. But from a trade standpoint, you obviously very aggressively are going to pursue a Joey Gallo trade. All right, as you should do with Kyle Gibson. Doesn't mean you're going to do it, but you at least need to see what's out there. It's irresponsible not to. And you set a bar. All right. So anything underneath this bar in terms of the potential return, not even going to consider. I don't know what that bar is. That's up to the Rangers to define. All right. So you set a bar, and if the trade packages don't meet or exceed that bar, then maybe it's not worth the discussion right now. You can revisit it in the offseason. Or maybe you need to reevaluate your bar, right? So the question becomes interesting when you get what you believe to be fair or better than fair value for Joey Gallo. A team reaches or exceeds that bar. And as far as what that is, it's always so tough to predict. All right. How many teams are in need of a guy like Joey Gallo? What's the market? Where does he fall among the best available in whatever category into which he falls? So is Joey the third best outfielder on the market? Is he the fourth best left-handed hitter? Is he the best? The market dictates this. So let's say you've got a player, you got 2021 Joey Gallo, exact same production, exact same contract status, exact same everything, except you take 2021 Joey Gallo and put him in 2017. What you get for 2017 or 2021 Joey Gallo in 2017 might be very different than what you can get for him this year. Might be very different than what you get for him 2 years from now. It all depends on how many teams are, really buyers and what their needs are. If you got 4 big buyers, but they don't need an outfielder or they don't need a left-handed bat, well, it's not a good year to trade a guy like Joey Gallo. And the other thing, too, is you can't really measure or predict desperation. So what if the Giants and the Dodgers make a move and now the Padres are like, we need to step up and do something? And they feel a little more urgency, a little more desperation to make a trade. These emotional things do play a role still. All right. I know that this has become very numbers based, but the emotion does come into play when it comes to the trade deadline. So I have no idea what the market for Joey Gallo is going to be. I will tell you, I think he can bring back a top 100 prospect. I really think, and it might be Joey plus a reliever. I don't think Joey's bringing you back a top 50 prospect, but who knows? Again, I wouldn't be surprised if a top 100's not on the table, and I wouldn't be surprised if a top 50 is. I'm just trying to be realistic here. So the question is whatever return you can get worth making the move? Now, the biggest question, and maybe the biggest unknown, is Joey's market value in free agency. All right, like I said, when he was an all-star in 2019, I thought he would get 5 for 125 at least. And you can never predict years, right? Some years it's like, we're going to give these guys 8-year deals. And then now the new thing is like a 3-year deal with more money. I don't know. I can tell you that I don't think his free agent market value right now, as we have this discussion, is 25 plus million a year. I think it's more 18 to 23 million a year. So if Joey were a free agent, he'd get maybe 5 for 110, 5 for 105, something like that. That's a guess. Would you do that? Would you sign that extension for Joey Gallo right now? 5 years, we'll say $105 million. I think I would. I think $21 million a year for a guy who will be a 4 to 5 win player for you, a really good defensive player who gets on base at a high level and hits fifth, sixth, or seventh. That's a really good player. And that's probably a really good value for that player. And that doesn't prevent you from signing 2 to 3, 2.5, we'll say, franchise player contracts. Those are the Francisco Lindor type deals. That's the deal that someone's going to pay Trevor Story, maybe the Rangers. That's the deal that Mookie Betts got. All right, we're talking about the $28+ million a year. Signing Joey Gallo to a $21 million a year deal is not preventing you from making those other big buys. And to me, it's more about the years than the money. I don't really want to go more than 5 years. Big bodied guy, athleticism might wear down a little bit. I'd rather stick to 5 or fewer years. That's not to say that's what the Rangers are going to be able to do, but if the extension is 6+ years, then maybe I'm a little more hesitant. But who knows where the Rangers are and Joey Gallo is mentally from an extension standpoint, or where they are in terms of the conversation. So, those are the questions that the Rangers have to ask. Is an extension possible? And what is that number? What is that dollar amount? And if the extension is not possible, then, well, maybe it is more important to trade him, because you don't want Joey Gallo walking away in free agency with nothing more than a compensatory pick. Joey does want to be here. I can tell you that. That is 100% certainty and confirmed. Joey would like to be here. Doesn't mean he won't play anywhere else, but he really would love to be here. All right. He's not turned off by the fact this team is in rebuild mode. Joey is a creature of comfort. He likes kind of feeling like he knows what the deal is. He likes that the Rangers really value him. He likes it here. So an extension is not totally impossible based on Joey's desires. It's just a matter of whether or not financially they can see eye to eye. And if they can, then maybe the incentive to trade him is less, and you raise that bar on what sort of a return you would need to say yes and agree to a deal. If you don't think you can sign him to an extension and you're running the risk of losing him in free agency or diminishing value as time passes, then maybe that bar lowers. So the concerns for Joey, obviously the offensive volatility, but I do think the improved plate discipline over the last few years is a sign that while he's never going to be a high batting average guy, he is going to be productive and get on base. The thing that stands out to me, he's a big bodied guy who swings hard. Do those guys stay healthy? That's the question you have to ask, but you just don't know the answer to that. And the reality is you've got a two-way player right now, and the Rangers don't have many of those. All right. They don't have guys who are contributing offensively and defensively. Even Isaiah Kiner-Falefa right now is falling below average offensively. All right. So there's value in that. Those are my thoughts on Joey. Again, it all goes back to what they believe market value is, what's out there in trades, and whether or not an extension is possible. Hope this was educational in the least, even in a slight way. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Talk to you later.